This is very debate-esque. Glad you all could be here today. So let's make sure this works. Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Nathan. I grew up near here. I grew up in Gaston County. And yeah, Dallas, North Carolina, so not even Gastonia, not even the capital of Gaston County. And I like coming to Charlotte. I had lunch with my brother and my sister today, and I kind of like being close to where I grew up. So Nathan gave you a bit of background on me and RevBoss. I am an email marketing OG. I was employee number 1 at Bronto. So like, spent my whole career like building marketing software and sort of helping marketers market things. My latest thing is a company called RevBoss, and we sell software that automates sales processes for B2B and SaaS companies. We're about 18 months old. We just closed a seed financing. Awarded, I don't know that I would use awarded a seed financing, but we raised $1.1 million from a Silicon Valley-based investor. Was really glad that Adam invited me to come give a talk. And I'm going to talk about robots, which is going to be a bit of a change of pace from human behavior and gamification, which is sort of driven by sort of what people do. We're going to talk about what robots do. And so here's me. If you want to tweet about me or email me, by all means. So I am a very lazy guy. I like other people to do the work. And whenever possible, I like for software to do the work. So in sort of with sort of that context, that's why I built RevBoss. At Bronto, at Argyle, I tended to work in the sales and marketing organization, and there's been a couple references made about entering information into your CRM or researching the right people and doing all these things that salespeople have to do their job. It takes time, and I don't like doing it because I'm lazy. So we're writing software to automate all of that. So that, in my mind, is a revenue-generating robot. And I'll tell you a little bit about we'll sort of weave the RevBoss story through my talk a little bit just so you kind of get a sense of where I'm headed. But do any of you guys have sort of a thought in your mind of things in your businesses that are sort of robots that help accomplish revenue objectives? Yes, sir.
Onboarding email series.
There you go. That's an easy one. Yes. What's another one? Okay, good. All right, so Adam is the only friend of the robots, and the robots will remember that when they are our overlords. So a revenue-generating robot, to me, is a few things. It's automated. An onboarding email is like, welcome to my company. You're going to get 3 emails over the course of a week or whatever. That's great. That's automated. It needs to be business-driven, so it can't just be pointless, which Adam's example meets that criteria. It tends to be software technology driven, though that is not always the case, which I think will be one of the things that I hope that you can take away from this talk. And it needs to be perpetual, right? In my mind, a robot doesn't need to eat, it doesn't need to sleep, it just needs to run constantly, and the process needs to regenerate itself and refresh itself. So in Adam's example of an onboarding email sequence, it sort of just happens and it never stops happening. I want to help you wrap your mind around this idea of sort of robots that feed themselves, right? That aren't just completing the same cycle over and over, but are initiating new cycles to accomplish new things. So it's a little bit theoretical, a little bit bizarre, but we'll get there. So the basic example, something similar to what Adam said. This is not that hard to do, and I would imagine most of you have systems internally that do this. Someone completes a form on your website. Some data goes to some place in your CRM or data stack. That person that entered something gets an auto email, and the person on your sales team gets something that says, hey, this person filled out a form on your website. That is a great example of an automated process, and you can get that out of the box from a lot of places. I want to talk about some things that sort of scale beyond that. One of them is the things that we're building at RevBoss, and I won't go into too much detail here, but we have this vision of, it's really simple, push a button, get a sales pipeline. We think that our customers should be able to log into a web interface, provide some basic information, click go, and then get sales conversations at the other end. So that means provide some inputs, and through this combination of humans, data, software, and our own customer success team, we want to generate sales conversations for your sales team. So there's a lot of sort of robot aspects to what we've built, and we'll kind of keep coming back to this. Another sort of more space-age example of automation and sort of robotics and software is Amy. Have any of you guys use Amy? It's a website. It's called x.ai. So how many of you guys hate scheduling meetings with other people? Like, I hate it. I hate, like, hey, man, can you get coffee? Yes, but I almost don't want to because I don't want to go through the next 10 emails it will take to find a time for us to have coffee. So Amy is a tool where you just email Amy and say, hey, Amy, will you find a time for Sally and I to get coffee next week? And Amy is a computer. And she gets your email. Amy sees my calendar. And Amy says, hey, Sally, Eric is available these days, these times, and this is where he likes to get coffee. And Sally writes back to Amy and says, oh, well, you know, that day works for me. And then Amy says, Eric, does this work for you? And I say yes. And then Amy sends a calendar invitation to both of us. So I don't do anything. Amy does all the work. And Amy is a machine. That's a robot. That's cool. And the implications of that are astounding. And the amount of like machine learning PhDs behind that software, there's a lot, right? And that's not me. I know enough to be dangerous, but this is kind of where it's going as far as artificial intelligence and automation and robots in the sales and marketing stack. So sort of put your mind to sort of that place where I don't do any work. The machines do the work for me, right? That's where we want to go. So there are a few different parts to a revenue-generating robot, this idea that we're building at RevBoss and some of these examples that I shared. There's sort of the parts required, the assembly that has to happen, and then sort of the ideas of kind of what you can do when you have these sort of skills nailed down. So the 4 parts are pretty simple. You've got to have your process. You tend to be able to build this stuff with some out-of-the-box applications. You are probably going to need to make use of data APIs to move information back and forth. And you would be amazed at what you can do with people when it comes to automation. And we'll spend some time there. So the first part is process. And you need to really, 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 really understand what it is that you want to automate before you can automate it. So the example of a customer email drip is pretty easy. That's a very small example. When something happens, trigger this on day 1, trigger this on day 3, trigger this on day 7. That process is very clean and very simple. At my company, we're trying to automate a very long process, a very long chain with a lot of steps and a lot of dependencies and a lot of sort of if-thens. So the process we want to automate is outbound sales. What does it take for you, the sales rep or the sales organization, to have your first conversation with your target audience? Your target audience might be VPs of marketing at mid-sized e-commerce companies. We want to automate everything between you saying, these are the kind of people, and then you getting on the phone with those people, right? So that requires, well, what companies do I need to know? What people inside of those companies? What's their contact information, their phone number, their email address? I need some sort of mechanism to say, like, yep, these meet my criteria. I need some sort of mechanism to clean up that data to make sure that I don't email someone, like, hello, Matthew, when it should be Matt, or hello, Joseph, when it should be Joe. You can figure that out in an automated way. It's pretty hard. Most people, they may have Matthew on their LinkedIn profile, but you can very quickly surmise in an automated way if they go by Matt or Matthew. It's a small detail, but it's an important detail. You need a mechanism to figure out who you've already talked to make sure that you're not talking to the same people again. So I don't want to contact my customers. I don't want to contact people that are already in my sales process. I don't want to contact my competitors, right? So I could keep going on and on and on and on and on. So this is a process that is pretty extensive and has a lot of steps and has a lot of sort of things that could go wrong, that it has to happen in this sequence, in this order, before a salesperson can get on the phone and have a sales conversation, right? So if you're going to automate something like this, you need to have a very, very deep understanding of that entire process. And our company, this is sort of what we are working toward, and we've automated big chunks of this, and we're kind of figuring out some of the harder stuff. And it's because this is pretty much the only thing I've done in my entire career. And it's what we've really focused on for the past 18 months. So step one in building a revenue-generating robot is sort of your process map. And the way to sort of ID these internally at your organization is look for spreadsheets. Anywhere in your organization that you have a spreadsheet, that is a process that is ripe for automation, that is ripe for some sort of automated process to spit data somewhere else, right? So there's that. So the other, sort of the second step in building these automated processes are the applications, right? So you can typically borrow from a lot of places to build all of this. So when we go back and look at this workflow that we're building at RevBoss to automate this part of the sales stack, we're not 100% building core software with all of this. We're threading together lots of things from lots of different places. So you can borrow, right? So the great example is using Pardot or Salesforce, right? These are like out-of-the-box tools. Pardot in particular, which is sort of my preferred marketing automation platform. There are many others that are also very good. They can do a lot of stuff. And I would imagine most of you have some level of automation already built with drip workflows and scoring and that sort of thing. So this is a pretty basic idea. Another thought that you might consider is this company. They're called Automated Insights. Do you guys know this company? They're in Durham. Cool. Well, you're going to know about it now. It's my friend Robbie's company, and they actually just got bought, and Robbie drives a Tesla now and lives in a very, very large house. And actually, let me ask this question another way. Anybody here play fantasy sports? Fantasy football? Anybody play fantasy football on Yahoo? Anybody get the emails from Yahoo that say, Eric's team beat Adam's team, blah, blah, blah? You know what I'm talking about? That's Robbie's company. They generate hundreds of millions of those every weekend for every fantasy football game, and it's 100% software driven. They look at the data from your fantasy football game, and the data is always structured 100% the same way, right? How many points did you get? How many points did they get? Did you beat them by 30 points or 7 points? Did you win last week or this week, right? So it's formulaic data that's structured 100% the same way all the time. They take your data and turn it into a narrative piece of content. So there are robots writing the news stories that you read. Robbie's company, they were put on the map through their relationship with Yahoo. I mean, the Yahoo fantasy football stuff's pretty cool. They do this stuff for ESPN now and the NFL and lots of other fantasy leagues. They're writing earnings reports, and if you think about it, it's the same thing. A balance sheet, financial statements, they're always structured the same way. The data is historic. The data is typically clean. It's very easy to teach a computer to read that data and turn that into words that humans can read. Think about the sports write-up for the local D3 basketball team that the newspaper or ESPN, they're not going to cover that. But you can look at the box score, look at a raw feed of the data, and you can write the same type of story that you would write about the Charlotte Hornets, right? So this is a good example of an application that can automate an enormous part of your marketing stack. Some examples to think about here, e-commerce product descriptions, right? This widget has these dimensions, this widget has these dimensions, this widget has these dimensions, but it's all the same widget, and you've got lots and lots of those widgets on your site. I wouldn't want to write all of those because I'm lazy. I already admitted that I'm lazy. I like the idea of investing in onboarding something like this that will do my work for me. Robbie, the CEO of this company, is an investor in my company because we're going to take this idea and use it to create marketing content. So we have an enormous database of hundreds of millions of people and tens of millions of companies, and that data is always structured in exactly the same way. Where's the company located? What industry is it in? How many employees? What's their Facebook page? How many blah, 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 blah. Well, that stuff's very easy to get. Same thing with people data. It's always first name, last name, job title, whatever. We have another system, and I'll talk about, to get information where we'll go to your website and we'll, through an automated process, we'll see, oh, I read your case study about blah, 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 blah. That looks really cool, right? So threading all of that into an intro email that says, hey, my name's Eric. I work with company XYZ. I read about your recent announcement. That's really awesome. We work with companies in your industry, like my customers that are in that industry, right? So we want to automate content in the way that Robbie has automated content, right? And I would check this out. They have a self-serve offering that they just launched, and if you have a big set of data that's well organized, you could automate content too. So those are two applications. There are many other places where you can borrow this type of functionality to build your own robot. So the next one, the next sort of key tool are APIs. You guys know what an API is? Okay, good, good. So you need to move data around to different places. If you've got your process, that process is typically going to involve lots of people and lots of steps, and depending on where it goes, it's going to touch different parts of your sort of data stack. And so you're going to have to move data from Pardot to Salesforce, and you're going to have to ping something and get something back, right? So APIs are kind of the pipes that enable that. So perfect example is Salesforce.com, a very familiar offering. Salesforce has an entire ecosystem of sort of connectors and platform apps and whatever. APIs are what enable all of that, right? So it's, this is merely for people that don't know what APIs are. You guys know what APIs are, so we're just going to skip this slide. I got lots of positive nods. So in this context, this model that I want to get you to buy into, APIs are kind of like worker bees, right? So if you'll recall, the RevBoss diagram flowed through a lot of things, and there's lots of stops along the way. APIs are kind of the workers that we're triggering at different parts of the process. So a good example is, hey, I've got this piece of data, and I need this other piece of data that relates to this. But what I need, it doesn't exist inside of my data set, but I do know where I can get it. And I do know that if I give this data that I have to someone, they will say, oh, well, yes, here's what you need, and they can give it right back to me. That's kind of how these API worker bees work. So I have data, I need a question answered. I give some API my input data, and that API says, oh, yeah, well, here you go. And it all happens through computers, and it's magic, and it's so fast, it's amazing. So the good example here is qualifying a prospect. So, and my talk is a little bit B2B heavy, but this very much works the same way in the B2C context. When you're scoring likely to buy, LTV, sort of who should get what email in my million-person database. So if I'm qualifying a sales prospect and I get just some really basic information about the person, I don't want to go to their website. I don't want to go to LinkedIn and find out about them. I don't want to find out if they're on Twitter. I just don't want to. I'm lazy, right? I want computers to do my work for me. So how do I figure out how big the website is? Well, I take the domain and I hit the Alexa API, and Alexa gives me a score back. Alexa is a data service from Amazon.com that basically is kind of like an internet ranking site, internet ranking service. The #1 ranked site on Alexa, I think, is Google or Facebook, and #2 is either Google or Facebook, and so kind of go on. So if I get something back that I've never heard of this website, but it has an Alexa score of 4,000, that's a pretty big site. Or if I've never heard of this site and I get an Alexa score that's like 10 million, I can probably ignore that one, right? And I can build software to tell me that. I don't have to figure it out myself. How many people work at this company? And plus a lot of other information about the company. You can throw it to full contact. Full contact is like $99 a month. And you just need to either know enough to be dangerous with as a web programmer or know someone that is. You can throw some information to full contact. You're going to get a whole lot back. Same thing with what software do these people use? You can use BuiltWith, which is a data company based in Australia that is making money hand over fist. Give a domain to BuiltWith, and they'll say, oh, well, these guys use Google Analytics, they use Marketo, they use Salesforce. They basically just scrape all the code off of their website, go through the code on their website to look for all the different plugins that indicate that they're using those tools. That's valuable to me. If I know that big websites that use Marketo are my ideal customers, I'm just going to run this through everything I've got in my database, and anything that meets my criteria, I'm going to flag it, and that's what I'm going to work on. And anything that doesn't meet that criteria, I'm going to ignore it. And on and on and on, right? A good one is Twitter. You can do a lot of hacky stuff with a Twitter API. And so the last one here is where I think it gets really, really interesting. You can actually run API-like programs through humans, which is kind of cool. So the last sort of step in our sort of four-step process, process, applications, APIs, people. So robots are actually people in disguise. It's kind of cool. So you can create something really magical and really amazing when you augment your technology processes with human inputs. Does anybody have any idea what I mean when I say that? Has anybody ever used Odesk or Upwork? Got it. All right. Odesk, Upwork, it's like a freelancer platform. I've got some grunt work that I don't want to do. I don't have an intern. Here's a description of the work. People from all over the world apply to do the work for you, and it is like shockingly cheap. And the work is frequently not good. But it's frequently good. And you can often, if you get a good person on Odesk, you kind of want to keep that person, right? So this is sort of like stage one of people as APIs, and it's like this idea of getting comfortable with, I've got to find phone numbers for these 500 websites, or I've got some rote data mind-numbing task that I just don't want to do. You can, if it's in a spreadsheet and if it's like Google this and find this or do whatever and it's really easy, you can upload it here and someone will do the work for like $3 an hour or less. And it's frequently okay, like it works most of the time. There's like a skill to like managing Odesk workers that you kind of learn over time. So if you can get comfortable with that, this idea of, hey, random person in Bangladesh, which we had a guy named Mohibur Rahman in Bangladesh who still Skypes me on my birthday and still Skypes me on his like his religious holidays to wish me happy whatever. He's a pretty cool guy, and he did a lot of work for us. So if you can sort of do that, you can graduate to sort of this next like worker platform, which is Amazon's Mechanical Turk. Has anybody in here ever used Amazon's Mechanical Turk? This guy has. This silver pop guy. I like him. This IBM guy. So Mechanical Turk has the coolest tagline of anything ever. And you can see it on the top left, barely maybe. It says, Amazon Mechanical Turk, artificial intelligence. Because Amazon Mechanical Turk is basically a human worker platform where you take your spreadsheet of work and instead of giving it to one person and say, hey, please do this same task over and over and over and over and over and over in my spreadsheet, you take that spreadsheet of 5,000 tasks, you explode it into 5,000 individual tasks, upload it to Mechanical Turk. Mechanical Turk operates on a distributed model. You guys could sign up to be a Turk worker today and complete tasks for me and get paid like 2 cents a task. And it's kind of an amazing thing. And some of the tasks are literally like a penny. Like, do this, and I will give you a penny after Amazon takes its cut, which they do. They take like a 30% cut. Some of the tasks are more involved, where you might get paid like $3 for the task. And I'll tell you, this is like a game-changing platform, and it is the way that work will happen in the future. It is the way that work is happening now. You just do not know it. And I cannot encourage you enough to like monkey around with it and figure it out. It's super cool. Anywhere in your organization that you have a massive spreadsheet that you're like filling in crap from the internet or like blah, it's just like rote work, you can use Mechanical Turk and it will get done lightning, like freakishly fast and freakishly cheap. I'll come right back to you. We were using Mechanical Turk, processing tens of thousands of tasks every month, and we kind of outgrew it and moved on to like the next thing, which I'll talk about next. Yes, you had a question.
I was just curious if this is like TaskRabbit for business.
Kinda. So TaskRabbit is like put together my IKEA, whatever. People don't bid on it. You sort of say, this is my task. It is, they call them HITs, human intelligence tasks. This is my task, and it's 2 cents. It's 2 cents, and you have 3 minutes to do it. Yeah.
Who owns the data? Does Amazon take over the data?
No, they don't. Yeah, it's purely a platform. So there are thousands of workers all over the world that do the work, and lots of workers and sort of requesters are kind of the nomenclature that they use. Workers are the people that log in, and I've got an example that I'll show you. You do the work, click next. Do the task, click next. Do the work, click next. You feed the work in via API. You can feed the work in via CSV. So if you have like a spreadsheet of all the work you don't want to do, feed it in, and it breaks it all into all the tasks, and it creates it and says, hey, world of Turk workers, here's some new work, do it. And in the same way with Odesk, we had people, so Turk operates at a black box, so I don't always know who's doing the work, and the work is so cheap that when I get crappy data, I just do it again. I block that worker and do it again because like I'll spend $5 on getting 1,000 things done, and I'm not going to check the data. If it looks like the data's bad, I'll just figure out which worker did that work, make sure they never do my work again, and just do the work, just have it done again because it's so cheap. So that's Mechanical Turk. And you can tell I kind of like this stuff because I'm lazy and I like for other people to do the work, just like I said. So we work with a company now. They're actually my friends. They're in Durham. It's called Cloud Factory. And they are, so the funny thing about Mechanical Turk, Amazon doesn't invest in it. Amazon doesn't even use Mechanical Turk for a lot of their sort of low-level back office work. Amazon uses Cloud Factory. Amazon just, like, they built Mechanical Turk. When they launched this thing, it was kind of like, holy crap, this is amazing. And a lot of researchers still use it for like survey and whatever. And you can sort of customize your audience a little bit so that you can do like behavioral studies or whatever. There's this new crop of companies that are popping up. Well, I like Cloud Factory because they're my friends. And we share an investor. The investors that led our round are investors in Cloud Factory. And they're just they're good people. We've worked with them for a while now. And we worked with them because Mechanical Turk has a lot of problems. The data quality was poor. It's a black box. It's just not great. Cloud Factory operates in a little different model where you've got an account manager, and they do some of the builds for you, and you can do way more complicated workflows where, if the data does this, trigger this, and if it does that, trigger that, and sort of multi-step branched type of stuff. And they have a dedicated workforce. So they have roughly, I think, 50 people in Kathmandu in Nepal and Nairobi in Kenya, which are sort of their two offices. They have 50 people that are trained on our stuff. That doesn't mean they have 50 full-time people. They operate on a distributed model too. But they have 50 people that at any given time are doing my company's work for us. And we completed well over 100,000 tasks through Cloud Factory in whatever the last month, not October, in September. We probably did more than that in October, I don't know yet. And all 100% automated. So a computer is saying, oh, well, here's data that I don't have. Hey, Cloud Factory, well, here's data that I don't have. What are my workers available to get this data? Well, for this type of data, the worker's Cloud Factory. And if it's this type of data, it needs to go to this Cloud Factory production line. Triggers the work. A worker in Cloud Factory does the work, click submit, the data comes back down to us all through web services. So it's like a robot that does our work for us. So does everybody kind of understand that? Cool. So here is some great like worker stuff you could do. And this is like easy stuff. You can do way more creative stuff. I've got 3,000 companies in my database. I don't have their phone numbers. Hey, Mechanical Turk worker, I will give you 3 cents to tell me the phone number for these companies. I've done that. I remember times in my life where I've had to be like, God dang it, I can't believe I got to find phone numbers for all these dumb companies. That is a very easy worker task. Hey, here's a product. It's kind of like tagging, right? So like, here's a product, what's the best category? Here's a piece of content, how would you tag it? How would you categorize it? So if you're an e-commerce company or if you're looking at a lot of content, help me organize this big pile of stuff. You can create a very simple workflow where they see the thing and they choose from a pick list and like click next. Does this match that? Like, here's the picture. Here's the text we extracted from this picture using optical character recognition. Is it correct or not? Like, that's an easy one. Yeah.
Just curious, how do you get around all the privacy issues when you're saying, I want you, robot, to go find this phone number, this email, this...
Yeah, so it's publicly available information. It's just sitting on the internet. And so like finding a phone number, yeah, I mean, it's out there. If you just know how to look for it, it's not that hard.
Company, you're sharing, say it's owner data, and you're trying to supplement gaps in your own data, you're putting it into a black box, as you said.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure somewhere in the terms of service for MTurk or Cloud Factory, it says your data is your data. We don't own it. There have been. I've had no issues. I know of no issues. But I would imagine in a really big company, you probably need to clarify that. And also, if the data's value, like the data's valuable, and there's a lot of restrictions in terms of what you can do. Like you can't say, "Hey, Turk worker, what's your phone number?" Or, "Hey, Turk worker, what's your social security number?" And that won't work because a lot of them are in China and other places where they don't have social security numbers. But that's a good question. We've had no issues with it, but that is a fair question. So a couple other ideas. Transcription. Hey, listen to this video and transcribe it into text for me. Person 1 transcribe it, person 2 transcribe it, person 3, which of these is the better transcription? Like that's a perfect like multi-step workflow that you can build, right? Look at this image and tell me what it says. Look at this image and tag it or categorize it or whatever. And my personal favorite, here's some random question. Please feed my machine learning algorithm. So do you guys know what machine learning is? Sort of computers looking at data and learning from data to make better decisions about future data decisions. Kind of a not that good explanation. But a lot of companies are using Mechanical Turk and other tools as sort of machine learning inputs, right? Where, great example with Amy, the scheduler. Amy, the robot, I don't like to schedule meetings with people because it annoys me kind of thing. There's actually a massive human component behind that, right? They have some sort of, and I don't know them personally, but I do know a little bit of their story and their background. They have some sort of scoring mechanism. Hey, this transaction sort of looked like it worked fine. You know, it's sort of in the green light territory. This transaction, based on some data that we got back, it looked a little fuzzy. So let's run that through a human process to verify, right? Or, you know, out of every 50 transactions, let's make sure a human verifies 5 of them to make sure that the computer is making the right decisions. So a lot of these like automated processes are here. Some other really good examples, if you guys use like Expensify or Shoeboxed, I'm about to cough, sorry. These like scan your business card from your phone and we'll put it in your CRM, or scan your receipts and we'll put it into your spreadsheet for you. You guys use those? They're all using these tools. Like they're not using optical. They're trying their best with optical character recognition. They're going to try their best to look at the image and extract the data, extract the text. But they're all using these to back end the process and to check the process. It's like magic. It's really cool. So here's an example of like a drop dead simple Mechanical Turk process that we use at RevBoss. Actually, we don't use this anymore, but I've logged into my account for the first time in months and months to do this. And I'm a huge fan of Turk, but we moved everything to Cloud Factory because we automated a lot of the low-level stuff with software. So we have computers that do this now. We don't need the humans. And the humans were actually getting to do harder stuff that we haven't figured out how to automate with computers yet. So the instructions, I have a bunch of company names, but I need to know their website. And for our process, if you'll remember, there's like that long workflow. Here's the 3,000 companies that match my criteria. I got the companies from Wikipedia or some other random list. But I got to get their website before I can figure out the people's email address or figure out their phone number. So let's throw it into Mechanical Turk. The organization name, the name variable. So there's the name of the company, the Google search, google.com /#Q equals $name, so that when they click on that link, it's going to open a Google search for that company name that I gave them. And then all we're saying is like, just give me the company's website. So the worker doesn't even have to click on the thing. They don't have to click on the Google results. They just click, they paste in the name, and click submit. And we have our data. And it's like over and over and over and over and over. The worker can click submit and do another one, and on it goes. It's kind of cool. Excuse me. Here's some of the stuff we're doing now. So this is a much more complicated, much more higher value workflow. And stay with me and I'll explain it. So the name of the company is Sonoma County Wine Growers. The company domain is sonomawinegrape.org. We already figured that out. We probably figured that out through some automated process earlier in the workflow. And I want to find the person. So if you sort of read the instructions, each of these URLs is going to provide a list of people. I want you, the worker, to look at the list of people and give me the one that best matches this criteria. And my criteria are, I want the CIO, the Chief Information Officer, the CTO, or the VP of Product Development. So based on that, I can probably guess which customer of ours this is. They sell nonprofit software. So we probably got Sonoma County Wine Growers. It's probably like a trade organization in Sonoma County. And maybe that organization has some sort of IT technical person. So what we've given the workers are a number of links. We've given them links to LinkedIn, where through an automated process, we found the LinkedIn company ID for that organization, the Sonoma County Wine Growers Association. And each of those links will drop the worker onto a list of people that match that LinkedIn company ID and also match that keyword, product, technology, information. So the workers will just see a list of people, right? And they can click, and if they don't see the right person on the first list, they can click and keep going until they find someone that matches our criteria. And from there, they'll give us a first name, a last name, and a job title, and that's it. How much do you think it costs us to get this work done?
5 cents. I don't want to know. Whoa. 1 second.
3 cents. 3 cents. 3 cents a transaction. And doing north of 100,000 of these every month. Completely automated, completely hands-off. It's amazingly powerful. Which is why I'm encouraging you, you guys should monkey around with this stuff because it's powerful. What you can do when you combine humans, software, and automation to do this kind of work. To freak you out a little bit further, what happens next? And this is from our stack. So when we get this data, this is what you'll really love. The email marketers in here will particularly ooh, cringe. So we already know sonomawinegrape.org. That's the website. We've got the first name and the last name, so it's like Susie Smith. From there, we can figure out our email address with a pretty high degree of accuracy, right? So what are the email address patterns? First dot last, first underscore last, first initial last initial first, whatever, right? So when that data comes back to us, we have another worker that basically says, okay, I've got 18 different email patterns I've got to chug through, and I've got these number of different places where I can try each of those 18 different patterns, one of which is the history of other patterns of other email addresses we may have found in this domain. And that's part of what our machine does and what our machine automates. So if you think about, we want to automate sales prospecting and make it easier for sales reps to get on the phone with the right people. Part of that process is finding an email address that you can email. And so we have a perpetual motion machine that will do that. So this is what I mean by revenue-generating robots. And I'll tell you that this monstrosity, and it is a little bit of a monstrosity because it's just a pile of spaghetti code, and it's a little bit of a mess at times. It's this thing that we're building started with it started with spreadsheets. It started with spreadsheets, and then Odesk, and then on and on and on. So you can build these things. You just have to kind of hack the process and know what tools that you have available to do it. So here's the other big bonus with Mechanical Turk and Cloud Factory, just as an aside. When I talk about getting the work done really, really cheap, it sounds exploitative and imperialistic and not very nice. But it's definitely not. These workers at the work that we do through these platforms, we try to meter it at $3 an hour. And $3 an hour in Nepal is like more than the bank people make, like more than like the bank tellers and bank loan people make in Kathmandu. So $3 an hour in Nepal is send your kids to a good school, raise your family with dignity, like live a good middle class Nepali life. And that is really cool. It's frankly one of like my favorite things about working with these types of tools is that you're not just getting your work done like ruthlessly efficiently and really cheap, you're also creating opportunity for people in developing countries that are just as smart as we are. They just don't have the same opportunities that we have. And it makes me feel good. It makes my team feel good to know that we've got Sam and Parjun and Ashish and Safal and all these people that we work with on a regular basis, and that we're giving them like powerful, meaningful work so that they can lift themselves up and lift up their communities. Anyway, little aside, but that's an important thing to me as it relates to this. So, I have just like a lot of stuff in a semi-baked way. I hope you think about what you can automate at your work, and I hope you kind of think about some of these tools. And I want to revisit the example that we talked about at the beginning of the talk, similar to the example that Adam gave. So our example was a user completes a form, and the data goes to the CRM, the user gets an auto email, and the sales rep gets a notification. Yeah, that's automation, right? This is where I want your brain to go. User completes a form. Data goes to the CRM. All right, pretty good so far. We're going to ping Alexa and BuiltWith to get some company info. I want to find out from Alexa, how big is this company? Do they match my criteria? And I want to find out from BuiltWith if they use the software that we work really well together. We have an integration with Magento, and I want to find out if these guys use Magento or not. If they do use Magento, I want to trigger an email that says something about Magento. If they don't use Magento, I'm going to not trigger that email. We don't have phone numbers on our form because we've learned that when we include phone numbers, when we ask for it, people don't give it or they give us bogus numbers. And plus, the fewer forms we have, the fewer fields we have on our form, the higher our conversion rate. So we just don't ask for phone number because we know we can get it for 2 cents by triggering it through Mechanical Turk. So my conversion rate goes up, and I still get the same data at like fractional higher cost. And the email address, I use MailChimp, so I'm going to like zip it over to MailChimp so that they get my weekly email updates and whatnot. Also, you know what? I use custom audience advertising on Facebook and Twitter, and I'm gonna use DriftRock. They're one of our customers in London. They build really simple tools that like zip your data between ad platforms. I want to make sure this goes into my Magento. You are a god, sir.
Go pack.
Yeah. Oh, that was like a Marco Rubio-esque, like, dry mouth happening there. And when I get the email address, fill my custom audiences, right? All right, so this is good. What's next? All right, so now the user gets an email, right? And they can get an email that's triggered based on what I know about them because I know they use Magento, or I know they're a big company, or I know they're a little company. While that's happening, I also just want to ping the Twitter API. Do I follow this? Do I follow this company? Is there a Twitter ID associated with this email address? There might not be. You can throw an email address to Twitter, and Twitter will say, oh, yeah, it's this one. This email address is associated with this profile. OK, well, do I follow them? No. OK, follow. I'm going to look at their last 10 tweets, and of the 10 most recent tweets, whichever one has been favorited the most, I'm going to favorite it. And then I'm going to look at all their followers, and I'm just going to scrape them all and store them. And then I'm going to figure out some way to like identify the 5% of their followers that most closely match my criteria. I'm going to figure out, are their websites big enough? I'm going to figure out, do they use Magento, right, using this same process. And then I'm going to go find the right people at those companies because they're probably good prospects too. And I'm going to send those 5% that I think are a good match, I'm going to send them to workers to find the right person inside of that company, to find some basic information so that I can reach out to them with a prospecting email. Hey, I'm Eric at RevBoss. we just got a free trial from blah, blah, blah. Looks like you follow them on Twitter. I mean, you might not want to be that freaky about it, but you could. And you're going to contact those people. The sales rep gets a notification, but when those people contact, they're going to come to your website. And some of them might complete a form. And it becomes this process that just feeds itself. And it's really cool. So, let me know if you have any questions. But I'm going to leave you with a few ideas. Look for spreadsheets. Where you are like filling out spreadsheets, you are looking at an opportunity to automate a process and do less work. You can set up an account for free on Mechanical Turk. Well, actually, it's not exactly free. I think you have to prepay for like the hits, but you can do like $5. And create a batch. It's like, if anything, play a practical joke on your friend. Like, create a task that is, go to this website and leave a comment on their blog, right? And like, give them options of like ridiculous comments that they can read, and give that task to 100 people and do like 5 cents a task. It will get done, and your friend's blog will get 100 comments on it, and that'll be pretty hilarious. Or if this stuff feels like something that you could do in the near term, talk to your local IT nerd, or talk to someone on your software engineering team. And if a marketer goes to a software engineer and says, hey, like, I've been thinking about these data APIs and how we can maybe augment the data that we have or automate our process, the right software engineer, they'll get geeked out and you'll get mad respect. They will be excited to hear that you're thinking about marketing in this kind of way. Thank you guys for listening. Email me, tweet me. I'll be around.